about you go with your husband. My husband is at work making triple time so that I have medical and dental. Yeah, you don't got that. We know you use an HMO and you don't know what the fuck a PPO is. My husband at work, so I got time today. I got time right now. I know you don't even know what a husband is, baby. Your mama ain't got one. Your grandmammy ain't got one. Don't worry about my husband. I'm doing just fine. I'm gonna be celebrating 12 years in April. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I got this. Girl, could you imagine if I was like a single woman with no fine ass, thick ass husband? They would really be out here playing with me like, she ain't got no man. She wanna be with her son. Bitch, I got a man. Been had a man. Keep a man. Ain't never been without one. Okay? I don't even know who the light man. Who do you pay the light bill, water bill, gas bill, our mortgage? I don't know. I wake up just like a motherfucking 12-year-old kid. I get on the internet. I get me some coffee. I don't have a worry in this motherfucking world because I have a husband. I got time.
You ever watch the internet get something so wrong that it triggers a full-blown verbal earthquake? Because that's exactly what happened when the rumor mill decided to downgrade Karlissa Saffold's husband from a mental health therapist to a janitor like they were, casually editing someone's life resume for fun. And let me tell you right now, Karlissa did not clock in for that level of disrespect. This wasn't a gentle correction. This wasn't a calm clarification. This was a verbal fire alarm with no snooze button. The kind of moment where you could practically hear keyboards shattering as Karlissa said, "Yeah, absolutely not," and proceeded to light the rumor on fire in front of everyone. Because in today's internet culture, people don't just gossip. They rebrand you without consent. One tweet turns into a headline. One comment becomes a fact, and before you know it, someone's entire identity gets dragged, downgraded, and maimed into oblivion. And Karlissa, she wasn't about to let that slide quietly. This clapback didn't just shut down a rumor. It exposed how fast the internet disrespects, rewrites, and weaponizes narratives, especially when they think you won't fight back. Spoiler alert, she fought back. And once she spoke, the internet realized it had picked the wrong day, the wrong woman, and the wrong family to play with. It all started with one of those rumors that shouldn't have survived 5 minutes, but somehow grew legs, got a passport, and traveled across the entire internet. You know the type. Half heard, half made up, and fully disrespectful. Somewhere between a comment section joke and a shady whisper, the narrative flipped and suddenly Karlissa Saffold's husband wasn't who he actually was anymore. According to the internet, he had been downgraded, mislabeled, and casually dragged into a role nobody bothered to verify. And here's the thing. The rumor didn't just misstate a job title. It carried an attitude, a tone, a quiet insult wrapped in fake certainty. Because the internet didn't say it politely. It said it like a punchline. Like people were waiting for laughs, clicks, and reactions. And they got one. Just not the kind they expected. Karlissa didn't respond immediately, and that silence gave the rumor exactly what it wanted. Oxygen, screenshots spread. Commenters repeated it like gospel. And suddenly, a false label started sounding true simply because enough people said it out loud. That's how misinformation wins. Not with proof, but with repetition. But what people forgot is this. Karlissa doesn't do quiet disrespect. She doesn't let narratives rewrite her life unchecked. And she definitely doesn't let strangers publicly downgrade her family like it's a joke for engagement. When she finally spoke, it wasn't soft. It wasn't sugar-coated. It wasn't the kind of response you could twist into politeness. It was direct, sharp, and dripping with that energy that says, "Y'all really tried it." She didn't just correct the rumor. She dismantled it, piece by piece, word by word. She made it clear that her husband is a mental health therapist, not whatever imaginary job title the internet assigned him for entertainment purposes. And that clarification landed heavy because it exposed something deeper than a simple mistake. This wasn't about janitors. This wasn't about therapists. This was about respect. Because the internet has a nasty habit of deciding who deserves dignity and who doesn't, and once it thinks it has permission to joke, it keeps going until someone snaps the mic in half. Karlissa didn't snap. She scourged. What really set people off wasn't just the correction. It was the tone, the confidence, the refusal to apologize for being offended. She didn't laugh it off. She didn't play nice. She treated the rumor the way it deserved to be treated. Like nonsense that should have never left the group chat. That's when the internet split. Right on schedule, some people cheered her on, applauding her for defending her family and calling out the casual disrespect that too often gets excused as just jokes. Others immediately shifted the goalposts, pretending it was never that serious, never that deep, never meant that way. Classic internet behavior. Throw the stone, then hide the hand. But Karlissa wasn't interested in backpedaling explanations. She wasn't there to make anyone comfortable. She was there to set the record straight and make sure nobody confused her silence for weakness. And the timing couldn't have been worse for the rumor mill, because Karlissa already exists in a public space where everything she says gets magnified. Her family name alone invites commentary, criticism, and unsolicited opinions. So when people thought they could casually disrespect her household, they underestimated how quickly she'd turn that energy back around. The response traveled fast. Clips circulated. Quotes got reposted. Reaction pages jumped on it like it was breaking news. And just like that, what started as a rumor turned into a moment. Not because of the lie, but because of the clapback. People weren't just discussing what she said. They were discussing why it even happened. Why the internet feels entitled to reassign identities. Why disrespect gets brushed off until someone loud enough shuts it down. And why correcting misinformation always gets more backlash than spreading it. Karlissa's words forced an uncomfortable mirror onto the timeline. Because suddenly, it wasn't funny anymore. It wasn't light. It wasn't harmless. It was exposed for what it really was. Careless, lazy, and rooted in the idea that public figures and their families are fair game. And once that realization hit, the conversation shifted. This wasn't just about a job title anymore. It became about how fast the internet strips credibility, dignity, and truth for the sake of entertainment. About how rumors get dressed up as facts. About how respect becomes optional when clicks are involved. Karlissa didn't just shut down a rumor. She challenged the entire behavior behind it. And that's why it hit harder than people expected. Because when someone speaks with that much certainty and that little patience for nonsense, it doesn't just end the rumor. It escalates the conversation. And trust this, the internet never takes escalation quietly. What followed next wasn't calm reflection. It wasn't accountability. It was chaos multiplied. Memes, takes, fake apologies, real outrage, and people suddenly pretending they cared about nuance. The moment Karlissa's words hit the timeline, the rumor didn't just die. It mutated. Because the internet never lets a clean correction exist without turning it into a circus. What should have been a simple "my husband is a therapist" stop playing instantly became a full-blown digital food fight, complete with think pieces, memes, and people arguing like there was a prize for being the loudest. This is the phase where logic clocks out and vibes take over. Reaction pages jumped in first, clipping Karlissa's response down to the most explosive seconds possible. Not the context, not the explanation, just the fire. Because outrage travels faster when it's bite-sized. And suddenly, the conversation wasn't about misinformation anymore. It was about tone, attitude, delivery. As if the internet was more offended by how she said it than by the fact that it shouldn't have been said in the first place. You could almost hear the collective gasp. How dare she be mad? How dare she correct people without a smile? How dare she defend her family loudly instead of politely? That's when you knew this wasn't about facts at all. It was about control. People wanted the correction, but only if it came packaged in gratitude and humility, and Karlissa didn't give them that. Instead, She stood 10 toes down, and that confidence turned her clapback into content. Memes popped up comparing the situation to job interviews gone wrong. Others mocked the internet itself for thinking it could rewrite someone's life like a Wikipedia edit. Some people laughed. Some people doubled down. All of them engaged. And engagement is the internet's favorite fuel. Then came the fake apologies. You know the ones. If anyone was offended, it was just a joke. Y'all are too sensitive. Suddenly, everyone wanted to act like intent mattered more than impact. Like repeating a rumor for laughs somehow absolves you from accountability. The backpedaling was Olympic-level. At the same time, supporters went into full defense mode. They weren't just backing Karlissa. They were calling out a pattern. A pattern where the internet feels comfortable diminishing people's roles, intelligence, and credibility for entertainment. A pattern where correcting disrespect gets treated as overreacting. A pattern where women, especially outspoken ones, are expected to absorb nonsense quietly. That's when the discourse really split. One side said Karlissa was absolutely right to shut it down aggressively. The other side accused her of being extra, emotional, or doing too much, because apparently, defending your family is only acceptable if you do it softly enough not to disrupt the timeline. And just like that, the rumor became secondary. The reaction became the headline. People who didn't even know how the lie started were now passionately debating Karlissa's personality, her past statements, her online presence, everything but the original disrespect. Classic deflection. Because it's easier to critique a response than to admit the rumor should have never existed. Influencers jumped in next, offering their balanced takes. They tried to sit on the fence so hard it almost snapped. Two things can be true, they said, while conveniently avoiding taking a real stance. Translation: they wanted the engagement without the smoke. And then there were the pop culture comparisons. People joked that the situation was messier than a reality reunion episode. Others said it made celebrity gossip pages look like HR departments. The exaggerations flew, but underneath the humor was a real discomfort. Because the internet saw itself in this moment, and it didn't like the reflection. Karlissa's clapback exposed how quickly online spaces strip context and respect. How rumors aren't just spread, they're enjoyed. How correcting a lie is treated like an inconvenience to entertainment. And once that realization settled in, the tone shifted from jokes to judgment. The irony is this: the same people who mocked the rumor later criticized the reaction. They wanted the mess without the accountability, the spectacle without the consequences. But this time, the person involved refused to play along. By now, the situation had grown far beyond a single comment or correction. It turned into a referendum on internet culture itself. How far is too far? When does humor become harm? Who gets to decide what's just jokes and what's disrespect? And while everyone argued, the original point stood untouched. The rumor was false. It always was. And yet, it had already done what rumors do best: create noise, force explanations, demand emotional labor from the people affected. Karlissa didn't retreat. She didn't soften her stance to please the crowd. And that refusal only made the situation louder. Because when someone doesn't bend to public pressure, the internet pushes harder. By the end of this phase, the conversation wasn't calming down. It was boiling over. The lines were drawn. Opinions were hardened. And what started as a careless rumor had now become a cultural argument about respect, class, and who gets to speak without being policed. And that's when the real fallout began to take shape. Because once the noise dies down, what's left behind isn't laughter. It's memory. Eventually, the internet does what it always does after setting something on fire. It pretends it never struck the match. The timelines slow down. The memes fade. The loudest voices move on to the next shiny controversy. But for the people at the center of the chaos, the noise doesn't just disappear. It settles. And that's where the real consequences live. Because long after the rumor stopped trending, the impact stayed breathing. For Karlissa Saffold, this wasn't just another online argument. This was a reminder of how fragile public perception really is. One careless narrative turned her household into a punchline overnight. And even after the truth was stated clearly, the correction didn't erase the disrespect. It only confirmed how quickly people were willing to believe the worst version of the story. That's the part nobody likes to admit. Lies travel faster than clarity, and corrections rarely catch up with the damage. Karlissa didn't walk away from this looking weak. If anything, she looked stronger, sharper, and far less patient with nonsense. But strength comes with a price. Once you clap back loudly, you become labeled. Not as right, but as difficult. Not as defensive, but as dramatic. That's how the internet refrains confidence when it makes people uncomfortable. And the framing stuck. From that point forward, every time Karlissa spoke, people listened differently. Not more carefully, more critically. The benefit of the doubt got thinner. The tolerance for her tone shrank. That's the invisible tax outspoken people pay after viral moments. You're allowed to defend yourself, but you're punished for doing it too well. Meanwhile, the people who spread the rumor faced almost no consequences. No accountability tour. No public reflection. No apology that matched the volume of the lie. The internet rarely holds rumor starters responsible. It just hands them another microphone next time. That imbalance is what lingered the longest. And let's talk about her husband for a moment. Because while Karlissa took the public hits, he became a silent symbol of how easily dignity gets played with online. His profession wasn't just misnamed. It was minimized. Treated like a joke instead of work rooted in care, responsibility, and credibility. The fact that people felt comfortable doing that says more about internet culture than it does about him. The conversation shifted quietly from gossip to something heavier: respect, class, who gets taken seriously, who gets reduced to memes, and why certain people are expected to absorb disrespect without reacting. This wasn't just a family issue anymore. It was a cultural one. Karlissa's relationship with the public didn't collapse, but it changed. The warmth cooled. The commentary sharpened. The line between support and scrutiny grew thinner. That's what happens when you pull back the curtain on how nasty online behavior really is. People don't like being exposed, even indirectly. And yet, she didn't retreat. She didn't soften her stance to rebuild comfort. She didn't apologize for defending her household. She didn't repackage her truth to make it more digestible. That refusal became its own statement. One that said, "I said what I said, and I meant it." That kind of resolve doesn't go viral the same way outrage does, but it lasts longer. The irony is this: the internet claimed the situation was never that serious, yet treated it like a full-blown event while it was happening. That contradiction tells you everything. People wanted the drama without the reflection, the spectacle without the self-awareness. And Zeus-adjacent drama culture didn't help either. Because once audiences are trained to consume chaos as entertainment, they struggle to separate reality from storyline. This wasn't a show. There were no edits, no confessional booths, no reunion couch to smooth it over. This was real life colliding with digital recklessness. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. The rumor didn't define Karlissa, but it did redraw the boundaries around her. She became less tolerant, more guarded, and far more aware of how quickly narratives get twisted. And honestly, who wouldn't? The internet moved on, but the lesson stayed sharp. Speak too quietly, and people rewrite your story. Speak too loudly, and they critique your tone instead of the problem. Either way, the burden falls on the person being disrespected to clean up the mess. And that's the ugliest truth of all. This scandal didn't end with a public apology or a dramatic resolution. It ended the way most modern controversies do, with unanswered questions, lingering attitudes, and a collective shrug as the timeline refreshed itself. But make no mistake, moments like this don't disappear. They resurface in future arguments. They shape how people react next time. They become references, warnings, and receipts. Karlissa didn't lose this battle, but she didn't win peace either. She wants clarity. Clarity about how fast narratives flip. About how little respect rumor culture offers. About how defending your truth will always upset someone who benefited from your silence. And if there's one thing this saga proved, it's this. The internet loves to play with people's lives until someone reminds it that there are real consequences behind the jokes. Now listen. If you stayed all the way through this, you weren't just watching content, you were watching the internet expose itself in real time. Because this wasn't just about a rumor. This was about respect, entitlement, and how fast people play with other folks' lives when they think it's just online. And Karlissa Saffold made one thing crystal clear. She is not the one to test for laughs. So do what you do best. Smash that like button like the rumor owed you an apology and never showed up. Hit subscribe like you're locking in a front row seat to every messy headline before it breaks. And turn on notifications because the internet never sleeps, and neither does the drama. Now I need to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me this. Did Karlissa have every right to go FF? Or do you think the internet should have handled this differently from the jump? Was this harmless gossip that went too far, or straight up disrespect disguised as jokes? Don't tiptoe. The comment section is the real courtroom. And let's be real. This isn't the last time a small rumor turns into a full-blown spectacle. Celebrities get misquoted. Families get dragged. Narratives get rewritten. And every single time people swear they didn't mean it like that. Funny how that works. That's why you stay locked in right here. Because scandals don't slow down. Misinformation doesn't apologize. And celebrity chaos reloads daily. We break it down, call it out, and say what everyone else dances around. So if you like your commentary bold, your drama unfiltered, and your breakdowns one step ahead of the timeline, you already know the assignment. Subscribe. Stay tapped in. Stay honest. Because when the next rumor drops, and trust me, it WILL celebs YNC will already be on it. YNC will already be